Welcome to Cooking with Gerald. On today's episode, I'll be making a moist, delicious carrot cake. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. If you are returning, I really appreciate you coming back and showing me some support. Before we get started, please go ahead and like this video, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. All right, so today I'm making a carrot cake for you guys. Trust me when I tell you this carrot cake is so good, you don't even have to put the cream cheese icing on it to eat it because it's so delicious. I'm gonna start off with my ingredients. Excuse me. 4 large eggs. This is the weight ingredients. 4 large eggs, a cup of vegetable oil, 3/4 cup of applesauce, unsweetened, a teaspoon of vanilla, and then also a half cup to a cup of raisins. I don't like that many raisins, so I didn't put that many in there. As far as the dry ingredients are concerned, 3 cups of flour, 1.5 cups of light brown sugar packs, a half a cup of granulated sugar, and 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a teaspoon of baking soda, a half teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground nutmeg, and then 2 cups of carrots that are shredded. So I'll go ahead and get started. Excuse me, I'm gonna go ahead and get my eggs in there. Shoot. And with this particular recipe, because it is an oil-based cake, I always beat it by hand. I don't use a mixer. I use a big wire whisk. Go ahead and add my oil. The applesauce. This applesauce makes the cake extremely moist. Some recipes call for pineapple. I've tried that before, but I like the applesauce a lot better. Because a lot of times with the pineapple, the cake tends to tear because it's too moist. All right, so I have my wet ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and add the vanilla. A teaspoon. Go ahead and whisk these together just to break them up. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my sugar. So 1/2 cup of white sugar. And then 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Go ahead and whisk that together, break it up. And then now I'm going to go ahead and add in my dry ingredients after I get this combined. Oops, guys, I just realized that I had the camera pointed down on my spices and not at the actual bowl, so I apologize for that. But it's pretty much everything that I said that I put in the bowl. I put in the bowl and just whisked it with my wire whisk. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my dry ingredients, which is 2 cups of all-purpose flour, or 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. That's 1. And I would recommend sifting your flour. And then once you sift it, measure it once you sift it, unless you're using cake flour. Best cake flour to use is white lily. If you're not using cake flour, what you can do is remove a 1/4 cup from every cup of flour and then add a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. So basically 1 cup of flour minus a 1/4 cup, and then you just add a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, so it still equals 1 cup. For each cup that you do, that'll actually turn it into cake flour. So I've got my flour, all my dry ingredients right here. I'm gonna go ahead and sift them into the bowl. Nutmeg smells so good. All right, so I'll go ahead and whisk this together. What I'm going to do is throw these raisins on top of the flour. Normally what you want to do is just mix the raisins with like about a teaspoon of flour. But since I haven't mixed it all together, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on top of the flour. What this does is it prevents the raisins from sinking down to the bottom of the baking pan, which in return, it'll prevent them from sinking down to the middle, so they'll stay sinking down to the bottom. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my mouth today. Sinking down to the bottom, they'll stay in the middle, which is what they're supposed to do. That's what this does. Helps prevent that. This is like one of the easiest cakes. This one and red velvet, if you're using the oil-based recipe for a red velvet cake. And a hummingbird cake too. Okay, so that's combined. Oven's on 350. Now the only thing I need to do is to add the carrots. Shredded. You can take the large regular sized carrots, peel them, and then take a grater and grate them, which is very time consuming. But hey, if you have time, that's just extra love that you can put into this cake. Otherwise, you can do what I did, which is to use a food processor and chop them up. Or if you're really courageous, you can go ahead and buy the ones that are already cut, kind of like shoestrings, and I believe they're called shreds. They're just more bigger shreds or grates. You can use that to put it in there. What I recommend doing before you use those is to blanch them for like about 4 or 5 minutes. Drop them in some cool water to stop them from cooking, and then add them to them, because otherwise they may not cook all the way through, and you don't want to have a crunchy carrot cake. All right, so get this combined and mixed together, and that's it, guys. Just got to drop it in the pan. Go ahead and, while my oven is warming up, go ahead and prepare my pans and then drop them in the oven. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and prepare my pans and also have my scale. This is a manual scale, which I've had forever. I have a digital scale too, but I guess I just never use a digital scale because the manual scale works just fine. Anyway, I have my pan grease, which is pretty much equal parts oil, shortening and flour mixed together. There's a video for that on my YouTube channel. I'll put the link down in the description. This is actually, excuse me, this actually works very, very good. I usually will take my brush and just brush it in there. It's pretty much like having the spray that has the flour in it. Or if you have non-stick pans, you can just use cooking spray, and the cake should come out without any problems. And these pans are 8-inch pans. This will make 3 8-inch pans or 3 9-inch pans. Using the 8-inch pans are going to be a lot thicker, about an inch thicker, versus the 9-inch pan. All right, so got those done. So the next thing I'm going to do is put my baking strips around each pan. Baking strips? What are baking strips? Baking strips are these cloth strips that you can use to put around the pan so that your cake doesn't dome. When I say dome means that it has like a rounded top on the top. What this does is it prevents that, and it allows your cakes to bake flat evenly, and it also prevents them from all the excess browning on the side, so you'll get the true color of the cake and not all the brown crustiness on the outside. What these are, or actually where I got these from, was on Amazon. I think I got a set of 6 for like $15, but you can buy a set of like 3, I believe, for like about between $8 and $10. They're not expensive at all. I just started using them. It makes a big difference, especially with lighter cakes or just cakes in general, period. So this is what they look like. Just a strip. You can also substitute this with aluminum foil. You can take some aluminum foil, take some wet paper towels, wring the water out of them, leave them as damp as you can, roll them in the aluminum foil. Well, I shouldn't say roll them, but fold them into the aluminum foil, and then fold them around the pan like I'm doing with this one right here. And it'll serve the same purpose if you don't have the baking strips, or if you don't want to invest in the baking strips. And this is what it looks like, just like this. Let me go ahead and get the other one on. With these, you have to soak them in water. Once you soak them in water, go ahead and put them together and wrap them around the pan. All right. Last one. All right. Like I said, I do weigh all my pans before I bake them. That way I have even layers all the way through. These should weigh about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds a piece to be even for 3 layers. So we're going to start off with 2 pounds. I believe they're 2 pounds a piece, if I can remember from this recipe. So this one cake, excuse me. Two cakes. All right, so with this recipe, it is 3 pounds. However, because I'm using 2 cake pans, I'm not going to use all 3. I'm going to actually put 2 pounds of batter in here instead of 1, because usually I just put 1 pound in each can if I was doing a 3-layer cake. But because I'm doing a 2-layer, I'm going to put 2 pounds. What? Hold on, 2. I'm sorry, it's 1.5. It's usually 1.5 pounds per pan if I'm doing 3 pans. However, because I'm only doing 2, then I'm gonna put 2 pounds in each one, and there's a little bit of the batter left over because you don't want to overfill them, otherwise it'll spill in the oven. So I got those together. Go ahead and put these in the oven. Bake them on 350 for about 40 minutes. You want to check them after that. On the second rack in the oven. And once they're finished, we'll do that. Hey, also guys, as far as nuts are concerned, you can actually put 2 cups of walnuts inside your batter before you put the mix in the oven. What you want to do is put about a teaspoon of flour and mix it with the nuts, and put it in the batter. You also can toast the nuts, which gives it a better taste, a better flavor. If you toast the nuts first and then put them in the batter, let them cool obviously, then put them in the batter and put them in the oven. For my recipes, I don't do that because everyone does not like nuts. So what I do is I'll cover my cake with icing and then I'll put the nuts on top. That way if someone doesn't like nuts, they can just scrape them off. So that's just a little tidbit or tip for you. All right guys, these cakes are finished. They took 40 minutes exactly with my oven. Your oven may differ. Everybody's oven is a little different, so you just want to watch them. As I told you before, by having these strips, the baking strips on there, it baked the cakes flat. I mean, just bone flat. You don't have to trim off anything off the top or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is let these cool on the rack for about 45 minutes to an hour until they come to room temperature. Then I'll take them out, wrap them in plastic, and then put them in the freezer until I get ready to ice them. Freezing your cakes, when you're handling them as far as icing them, if you're doing it if you're like making a wedding cake or some type of theme cake or something like that, it's best because they're easier to handle. When you're trying to ice them, they won't fall apart, crack, or what have you. If you're not doing that, then all you need to do is just leave them in the pan for about 15 to 30 minutes, flip them out on the rack, and allow them to finish cooling at room temperature, which is what I'm going to do with these. And then once you get finished with them cooling at room temperature, go ahead and wrap them in plastic wrap and put them in the refrigerator until you get ready to use them. Or if you're planning on using them that same day, you can just leave them out. But that's what I'm going to do. So I'll be back after I do that. I'm going to go ahead and get the icing together, and I'll be back with that video as well. All right, guys. So now I'm going to make my icing. Half cream cheese, half butter. Like I said before, the link to the video of how I make my icing, and then just also some different scenarios of the different types of icing that you can make is in that video. I don't like straight buttercream and I don't like straight cream cheese, so I'll do half. I always make my icing half and half. Half butter and half cream cheese for the fat. So it's going to be a cup of cream cheese, a cup of butter, let that go ahead and get started. Mix together. And then about a tablespoon of vanilla flavoring, or vanilla extract rather, I should say vanilla flavor. Pure vanilla extract. And about a pinch or 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And from time to time, what I also like to do is put like 1/4 of a teaspoon of lemon extract. You don't have to, but it gives it kind of a balance. So now what I'm going to do is scrape the bowl down. Let me get my long scraper. Scrape the bowl down. And then go ahead and add my powdered sugar or confectioner sugar, which is actually 2 pounds, 2-pound bag. You want to add this one of two ways. You can put it all in there and then get you a tea towel, like a kitchen tea towel, or else some plastic wrap to wrap around the top of the bowl so that the powdered sugar doesn't go all over everywhere. Or you can just add half of it, add it in like 3 parts, which is what I'm going to do to allow it to mix in with the cream cheese, and then add more, and then put it on low like this so it doesn't splatter all over everywhere. Squeeze it up a little bit. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is scrape the bottom again. Just make sure there's no powdered sugar stuck to the bottom. Go ahead and add some more powdered sugar. Second batch. More come together. So I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of it. Got a little mess, not much. Alright, so I'm going to scrape the sides down again. And it's important that all your ingredients are at room temperature, so especially so that the cream cheese and the butter are able to mix very well together. All right, so now I have the icing together. It's a little stiff. You can look in and see how thick it is. So what I'm going to do now is leave the mixer on on stir, which is number 1. Let me go ahead and open it up first. Okay, so now I'm going to put it on stir and let it go for about 5 minutes. What this does is it actually turns the icing from yellow with the cream and from the cream cheese and butter to make it like a nice white. You want to make sure that you have it on low, because you don't want to put any air bubbles in there. If you turn it up on medium or high, it's going to whip air in there. You don't want that. Otherwise, when you try to frost your cake, you'll have holes, little air holes or air pockets in the icing. So I'm going to go ahead and let this go for about 5 minutes, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. And as you can see, the icing turned white, And it's nice and creamy and fluffy. It's not stiff like it was before. Nice and smooth. See how smooth that is? So now I'm ready to ice my cakes. Well, I shouldn't say cakes, but cake. Alright, so I have my piping bag, which this is a Wilton 16-inch professional decorating bag. And I have a Wilton tip, closed star tip 850, number 852. Got that fitted down in there. So I'll use that when I'm piping the border around the cake. And I also have my spatula. I don't like the offset spatula, which is one that looks like this. It has the raised neck on it. I don't particularly care for that one. I do like this one though. I purchased a few of these, and you'd be surprised. I bought this from the Dollar Tree for $1, and this actually does very, very well compared to my other ones. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is put a dollop of icing on the cake board, so that when I put my cake on it, it'll prevent it from sliding. Like I said before, I freeze my cakes before I frost them so that they're easier to handle. What I do is I wrap my cakes after they come to room temperature. I wrap them in plastic saran wrap and leave them inside the pan. To get them out of the pan, all I do is turn the pan upside down and run it under hot water. And the cake, once you do that, will pop right out just like this with no problem. I'm going to go ahead and put that right in the middle. I want to make sure that it's centered on the bowl, on the board really well. And as you can see with that pan grease, look at that. Nothing's left in there but just the oil. Easy cleanup. So I'm going to start by icing the top. And you can put as much icing as you want to in between the layers. I don't put a lot. Probably about a half of an inch. Then we'll go ahead and add the second layer. Put that right on top. All right, then go ahead and start icing the sides to do my crumb coat. All right, so this is my crumb coat. Gonna put this in the refrigerator for it to harden up, and then I'll put my next, the final coating on. I'm not putting any on top because of the fact that the top is really not gonna be decorated. I'll put one layer at the top, and then I'll put my walnuts on top of that, so I don't really need a lot of icing on top. So I'll go ahead and put this in the fridge so it can harden up, and then I'll go ahead and finish frosting. All right, guys, so I'm back to go ahead and put the final layer on of icing. All right, so what I did is I took a spatula and ran it under hot water, or you can boil some water and put it in there that way until the blade gets hot from the hot water. I take it and I wipe it off, and I just go around the cake to smooth it out to make it smooth. And go ahead and do this. top doesn't have to be fancy because I'm covering it with walnuts, so that's good. I just need to have something for them to stick to. Ready to get my piping bag together. Start with the top. Don't want to make this real high. All right. So I got the top border done. And now I'll put my walnuts in here. Move these around. I'm pushing these down so that they're sticking into the icing so they won't come off. Go ahead and do the bottom. And there you have it. Flip this around. I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell at the top right-hand corner of the screen to be notified each time I upload a new video. And don't forget to leave a comment below. And if you don't mind, please go ahead and share the video. Until next time, stay safe.